Hi, everyone. Very happy to be here to share our experience, how has been the different and the main aspect that we already had here in Santiago about our regulation. I can imagine that you have already seen our buses around here in the city. Here actually is one of them. And also, if you like, you have on your tables. If you want to make it by yourself, you will need a title, but I hope you can get it. And now I'm Diego Silva. I'm the head of the strategy and contracts area in the Directorio de Transporte Público Metropolitano, the Department of Metropolitan Public Transport here in Santiago, that is part of the Ministry of Transport and Telecommunications here in Chile. So we will talk about, as I was saying, different, how has been our story to get our current point about the electric buses and how has been our different regulation steps in order to share with you our knowledge. So let me try it. Yes. Understand. Oh, I see. Perfect. So at the beginning, we will start this to tell you this story from from the beginning of the 80s. And actually, you can see now in the slide a bus not that different from the bus that Simon was just showing us. We had that kind of buses here in Santiago. We had a totally deregulated system working here in our city. Our first attempt to regulate them was in the 90s at the beginning with our yellow buses. Yellow because was we call it that way because all the buses were yellow. And actually, if I'm not wrong, just tell you why they were yellow, because it's a color that is we know that's very secure and very safe to be for the buses to be seen around the city. So all the buses were yellow, and then we move on to the Trans-Santiago system between 2005 and 2007. And then in 2017, we incorporated our first electric buses. And actually, when Paola Tapia, our director, was Ministry of Transport of the President Bachelet, these buses were brought to our city. And then in 2019, we began with Red Movilidad, our new stage of how we have the system. So these are the different key points about how has been our evolution of our public transport here in Santiago. But of course, it hasn't been an easy way and an easy history to achieve our current job. We have had different obstacles during the time, and we would like to share with you how has been our story explaining you those points. So, oh, sorry. It's important to mention that we had to create a new regulation in order to allow to the Trans-Santiago system to begin. And this point is particularly based in talking about the vans and minibuses that we had in Santiago working. And actually, we have a key point and a very historic fact that a van moving people from the north part of the city to the east part of the city, where actually now the jobs are concentrated, almost fell down in the Mapocho River, and was a very, of course, high impact new, and the image was very strong for the people. So of course that allows us and create, of course, the environment that we have to do something. And with that, we as the Ministry of Transport, we created the Decreto 80, the Decreto number 80, in order to formalize the activity. And basically, as a summary, we told to the people that if you want to do a public transport system, you must be regulated. But if you are going to do a private service, it could be deregulated, and just in in main terms. So this creation of this decreto allowed us to basically to have the regulation, to have the first step of Transantiago in order to create Transantiago and to have the law and the regulation structure in order to allow to do the tendering process and to make the first step of the Transantiago system. Oh, again, sorry. I should. So how very clearly how was our implementation? That was in the Saturday, 10 of February 27 was a very important day for the city, of course, and actually I was studying at that time. Actually I was studying here in this university. It was a very important day for all the citizens of Santiago because everything changed from one day to another. It was we call it internally, it was a really big bang for the system. So we have had many learnings about that experience, but the idea was to finish the yellow buses that they were very characterized for long routes that mostly cross from one other to another part of the city, creating large and often we could see we could saw different routes with very few passengers as well, and so it wasn't that efficient the system. So we decided to optimize it. The idea of the Transantiago system was based on backbone and trunk feeder system. So we have the trunk system, bus routes and feeder areas and bus routes. And also this structure allowed us to take advantage of the capacity of the metro that had capacity at that time that must to be used in order to allow to the citizens to get to the metro. Because, and I'm going to talk about that in the next slide, before Transantiago, if you wanted to use it, and if your origin and your destination was in a area outside the coverage of the metro, that for example you needed to pick a bus route, you had to pay 2 fares or even 3. And for instance, if you wanted to take a bus to get to the metro, then the metro, and then a bus. So with the Transantiago, we had a fare integration physically and in terms of cost. So now here we can see, and because of this, we call it the Big Bang. These are images of how was the first day of the Transantiago system. Of course, they are very shocked. The images, was a very big learning for us. Because of that, I still remember that it was a Saturday that this began. Was a very complicated day, and of course we needed to improve the things because we knew that this kind of situation, this kind of service they couldn't continue to be offered to our users. So this make us to do different changes in order to of course to improve the situation. So I'm sorry, I think we'll need classes to manage this. The patterns are not that clean. I'm really sorry. So as I was talking about, the Transantiago came with our fare integration. You can take different modes in order to with just one fare. You can this case, for instance, if we are talking about a person that before Transantiago needed to take a bus to get to the metro, then the metro, and then a bus to get to the carry him final destination. With Transantiago, just with one fare and paying a little amount of money, if in peak times take the metro, basically the same fare that's before the beginning of Transantiago. This was a very big change for the city, for the user, and actually makes an equal access to the metro system for all the city, because many people before Transantiago, they didn't in order to not to especially the poorer areas and poorer citizens basically many people didn't know the metro because it was more expensive to take it and to use it, even if they in many cases the metro offered shorter trip times. It wasn't possible to that people to use the metro. So with the Transantiago, this was allowed for those users. And of course, we implement this integration was based and was created thanks to the implementation of the electronic payment card, the BIP card actually. And also important to mention that it's a unique payment way in order to get to the system at that time, the BIP card. And also all the payment collection from the system was going to be centralized by us as a system. When a special institution especially created to manage the different resources and incomes and money of the system. And also, it's important to mention at that time, talking about my personal experience, I was before Santiago, literally my life changed because I live in an area that just one bus route got to my house. So if due to before the payment was managed by the bus driver, was that kind of model that the bus driver managed the system and the money. Here in Chile, since many years, the students pay less for the fare, basically a third. So, of course, the capacity of the bus is limited. So, I wasn't an attractive user for the bus driver. So, I needed to many times to wait a lot in order to a bus driver to see my face that I wanted to be at home, and that bus stopped me. And with Transantiago, that was totally eliminated. It doesn't matter for the bus driver to take our student, elderly people, elderly users, or an adult, because the payment was totally be centralized, and the subside was going to be centralized by the system. So just to give you a real perception of with examples of how was the impact of the regulation and how that this regulation could allow to the system to offer different features and possibilities to users. No, I did it correct. Fine. So talking about other improvement that Santiago allowed us, the safety and efficiency was totally allowed by the system because new technology was incorporated to the buses. The GPS technology, we could see finally the buses circulating through the city, and also this allowed us to control the frequency and the regularity of the system. It's important to mention that, as I was telling you, the system was based in the income for the bus driver. There was a real competition in the other street in order to get for more passengers. Races, actually, to be very clear of that. If you were already at the bus and seated, the race was kind of okay because it's going to be faster to get your final destination, but of course wasn't that not at all totally secure. So with the Transantiago, with the regulation, we see at that time, we saw a clear reduction in road accidents because the races was totally finished with this possibility that Transantiago gave us. So, and actually, the new contract stipulated that the drivers, they must have a formal employment contract and be paid by a fixed amount of money every month. Because also we saw work day with 12 hours long of every day of the bus drivers. So they began with the yellow buses. They began their day around 5 a.m. and until they were working until even 10 or 11 p.m. So it was a very tough and hard day. And with the formalization of the activity, we could stop that. And of course, to give a decent and very good condition, totally changed, totally better compared with the yellow system before. And also with the Transantiago was considered to do a different new bus infrastructure for the city. So different corridors and omnibus lanes were done. So the system also considered to have the construction of 225 kilometers of these roads in a 20-year period. So I'm talking about the red mobilidad, that there was this new big step of the system, the red and white buses. Our name was changed in 2019, when the biggest problems, all the problems of the system, and of course these initial problems of implementation were totally overcome. And also important to mention that this model of trunk and feeder system with the years was changed to have a kind of mixture between the yellow system and this Santiago system, because basically we know that for the people, the suffer of between a bus and a bus compared with sometimes with a previous bus route that was totally direct. It's not something that our user like it. So was not only the improvement of the buses, not only the improvement of different contract changes after the 2007 were done, also were done bus route changes in order to improve in that way with our operation the quality of our service. Oh, so actually last year we had the highest quality evaluation by the system in order to that in a certain way, of course, totally show the improvements that they are really perceived with our users. I'm going to be faster because I'm going to be run out of time. And just to give you a reference of how is our city, we have almost 7,000 buses running every year, 25 electric terminals. Currently, we have almost 2,500 electric vehicles. We are the city with the largest fleet outside China. So to be very honest, we are very proud of that here in Chile and Santiago. Actually, last year we had our first double-decker buses, actually electric ones. They were launched in August with the beginning of the Pan American and Pan American Games last year, and actually they were very good assessed by our users. We are also doing different technology and improvements in order to improve our service. We launched the devoid that basically you can pay your the system not only with the big card that was telling you, also with the mobile phone, with your phone, and also with the introduction of fare capping as well. You can see the buses, and you can see it here actually in your table. We are working also in working in the extension of services. Because Santiago is going up, and also to get to areas very sick to the city that now the system is actually is deregulated. So we are getting to those areas as well. It's important to mention that we have a gender perspective in our work. We are doing different measures in order to improve our work. So just to mention you two main of them, we launched in 2022 our Women Drivers Program. We have actually 1,525 women drivers in the system. That is 0.5% of the system. So that was an increase of 72% in 2 years. So it was a lot. And also we launched the Gender and Mobility Observatory in Latin America with the participation of different cities of Latin America, looking for share different practices and experience among the cities and the participants. That we can see photos of that launch of the system of the observation, sorry, and which are just this is our last slide. Challenging for the regulation, specifically about the regulation, as I was saying you, we have the issue of the rurality of Santiago. The surrounding areas of Santiago is not regulated. The system is not that good in order to have to tell you good words. There must be improved that system, that service. And actually last year we got to two municipalities, Lampa and Padre, adding two comunas to the system. The opportunity to extend it was important to mention, allows us to strengthen the system in the city, and of course strengthens the perception and building loyalty with our users. Oh, sorry. That's it. Thank you very much.